Cindy is with Protective Services in investigations at the Department of Social Services, where I met her when I was doing some training for their staff. I found her to be dedicated, which I think most people that do this work are, but she was also very focused. She was thinking about what her clients needed and how she was going to best meet their needs. She's a brand new PhD, for which I'm very proud of her, and she has received her PhD in Christian counseling. And I thought that her topic, though I don't know what it is exactly, but would be of interest to us. Please welcome Dr. Cindy McFeature.
I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come and speak today to everyone. I have a couple of confessions I'm going to make so that as I go through this, you'll have more understanding and be empathetic. I've never done a PowerPoint presentation before. I've spoken a lot before, but I've never actually had to deal with the technology of advancing the slides. So if you'll bear with me, we'll hopefully it'll go pretty smooth. First of all, a little bit about my background and a spiritual journey. I guess everyone here can probably share their spiritual journey and their search for God. And first of all, I was born in Salt Lake City, Utah, and my family was not of the Mormon faith. So I spent most of my life being discriminated against because I was not of the Mormon faith, and therefore I wasn't a part of the true church. This caused me to go into somewhat of a rebellion and become a hippie. So that was the choice, basically. You were either a Mormon or a hippie, and I chose to be a hippie. Yes, that's another spiritual journey, okay? And I did experiment with LSD and other drugs to further check into how to connect with the unseen. And felt like that I did connect pretty well many different times. Got into writing poetry. I've probably written over 500 poems. I went to the University of Utah, where I majored in English and minored in sociology. And there began my social work tracking. But I also had an interest in counseling. So I went on later on to get my master's degree in counseling, and then finally my doctorate. Throughout all of this time, I had visited pretty much about every church out there. I think I'm quite sure I've covered all of them. My grandmother was Catholic, and so I've been to the Catholic Church, Methodist Church. Bill and I have attended the Methodist Church with his family. That's his family background. Of course, the non-denominational churches. We've been to Baptist Church, about the Unitarian Church in Northern California, in Chico, California. We visited that church a couple of times. And so we have basically been seeking God and trying to find a place to worship or to feel His presence. What we have come to find in this search is that God is not in a building. The word church, in fact, is not a building. The word in Greek is ecclesia, and it means gather together, to fellowship. So wherever two or more are gathered together, and you're talking about your heart or your faith, then you are having church. So the enlightenment that you could actually be everywhere, anywhere, and be in the presence of God was quite a relief, because I've been to so many churches and have been disappointed and have been discriminated against in the fact that I chose the field of psychology because that was considered evil. Because anyone that would dare, fool with a person's mind and lead them astray, is evil. In fact, Bill and I attended a non-denominational church where we were in fact told that anyone that went to a psychologist, psychiatrist, or a counselor would in fact be evil and could possibly be possessed by demon spirits. This was, of course, brought up to the pastor of the church, who told us that he would listen to the videotape of the church And he met with us and said that once he listened to that he would get back to us. Of course, we never heard from him again, and we never set foot back into the church building again. So it's been a painful but an interesting journey, and I'm thankful for all of the experiences and for being guided to what I call the heart path. The heart path, I'm working on a book called The Heart Path Practitioner, and what I'm going to be going over today is really a basic overview of what will be in the book. And in fact, with the little time that I have, and I'm going to try and watch my time because I was diagnosed at age 15 as ADHD, and for those of you that know anything about that, I could have a tendency to rabbit trail or get off track. So I'm really going to try and stay on track with the slides and so we can get through the material. But Matthew 5:8 says that blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. So I've been meditating on that for a while, and I thought, what does that mean? I believe that your spiritual journey, first of all being your personal spiritual journey for everyone in here, that the heart path transcends culture, language, a person's color of their skin, even a person's age. And that the heart path can be a lifestyle with simple daily spiritual practices by acknowledging the divine within and everywhere. I also became interested in Aramaic. Jesus, in fact, spoke Northern Galilean Aramaic. And so I kind of wondered why people were reading the King James Version and so convinced that that was the best version of the Bible to read, when Jesus did not speak Greek, which was translated into the English, when in fact he did speak Aramaic. So when we look at the same verse, Matthew 5:8 from the Aramaic, it says, "Right are the consistent in heart, they shall see sacred unity everywhere." So I think that takes us just a little bit deeper into what we're talking about when we're talking about the heart path. As I said earlier, I think everyone is kind of pre-wired when we come into this world. I don't know of many people, especially small children, that begin to ask, why am I here? Why is the sky blue? Where do I come from? Where do I belong? Some of you may be familiar with Dr. Carl Jung. He talked a little bit about the individuation process, and that is, I believe, a process that begins to connect you to your inner heart. In fact, Dr. Carl Jung, as it's pronounced by the Jungian Institute, and I have a hard time saying that because I want to say Jung, but it's Jung. He was interviewed by the BBC prior to his death, and the interviewer said to him, "Do you believe in God?" And he answered, "No, because I know him." And I think so many of us get in a habit of saying, I believe in God, and I know that the last statistics were that 85% of the people in the United States are Christians. But what is a Christian now? What does that really mean anymore? And that's another story for another time, but that was one of the reasons that I went into my doctorate into Christian counseling, because I kind of wanted to be more like a C.S. Lewis. I kind of wanted to get in from their side in that thought process and then see what porthole could I use as a counselor to get into their belief system and open them up to a bigger world around them. Because I believe that they are being so boxed in by their dogma and by things that they are taught, and they're simply going as far as what they know. And they simply are going forward, in my opinion, blind. So I wanted to be able to relate to them and meet them where they were from a counselor's perspective, because when you're in the counseling field, you have to be aware and have knowledge of all people's belief systems so that you can understand what lens that they're seeing their life through. Science has recently discovered that the heart has cellular memory, and that the heart's code is recorded and remembered in every cell in the body. I began looking at the heart from a physiological point of view, and what hit me one day really powerful was the fact that the heart is the first organ that is created when we're in the womb. And if anyone, has anyone in here seen the video In the Womb by National Geographic? Good, a couple of you. Well, I was watching that that day, and I was simply in awe of how our Creator, the divine source, God, however you refer to God, how He set the whole thing up from the beginning. In fact, according to the research that was presented in the womb, the heart is the first organ created at about 22 days from conception. The heart beats with a rhythm that then all the cells begin to beat in unison with the heart. It's a pulse, and so they're all the cells at the time that they're being formed when we're in our mother's wombs, then begin to beat in unison. The beat of the heart is what provides the electrical impulse which activates the brain functioning processes. So the mind then picks up from there and begins to monitor all of our organs as they proceed to develop until we're born. Now, I believe what happens after that is that the mind gets what I call the big head, okay? And so the mind or the ego is saying, you know what, you need to listen to me now. I am in charge now. And we have a society that further tells us that, just check this out and you will be in control. And if you have this, then you'll have that. And we have a very narcissistic society that's forming around us that is taking us away from the heart path. When what my goal is to try and reconnect with the heart, which I believe is connected to the divine, in order for my mind to say, okay, maybe I'll listen to the intuition that you have, heart. Maybe I'll listen to your discernment, to your spiritual discernment. Maybe I ought to listen to you and then follow. And there is a way that we can do this, and I'll touch on it a little bit later on, but I do want to say that we've got things a little backwards. And a lot of this seems simple, and that's what's so neat about it, because it's simple enough for a child to do. In fact, the children are much better at doing it. So, okay, the heart constantly speaks to us. The heart connects with others' hearts through what we call spiritual intuitiveness. The heart connects to the rhythm of the universe and all creation. The heart connects to our unconscious minds so that through our dreams, vision, meditation, that we can bring thoughts to our conscious mind. So in order to hear the heart, we need to, again, tell our ego to step aside, and we need to begin to listen with spiritual ears and to see through spiritual eyes. Some external and internal factors which affect the heart, and obviously there's a lot more than these, but when we're talking about counseling and when we're dealing with counseling, we have people that have come to us that have had traumatic life events that may have resulted in post-trauma, relational problems. Relationships is a big focus of a lot of people that Bill and I've seen in counseling. Physical challenges, mental challenges, seasons of change, even the world events and the media have an effect on our heart and how we see things. And those effects are physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual impacts. But when you are providing counseling, you have to look at the whole being. So it's important to consider all of those areas. The healing process then becomes a balance that is obtained through physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. And when you can sit down with the client and begin to ask them questions relative to each of these areas, you begin to kind of find out where things are a little bit out of balance, and you begin to understand how all of that needs to work together. Okay, a simple technique in doing that, for example, is on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel physically today? Well, I feel like I'm about a 5 because I've got a really bad headache, my allergies are acting up, whatever the physical body is doing. How do you feel mentally today? I don't know. I feel like my thoughts are distracted. I'm having a rough time, And so you go down and you look at all of these areas and you begin to formulate how to empower that person and to pull all of those areas up so that they meet a balance in the process. The spiritual healing philosophy that I like, this was taken from the Universal Gnostic Church. And I like this because it does combine all of those areas. Basically, it's saying that underlying every physical ailment known to humanity is an emotional issue. Resolve the emotional issue, and you heal the physical ailment. Underlying every emotional issue known to humanity is a mental block. Resolve this mental block, and you heal the emotional issue. Underlying every mental block known to humanity is intuitive or psychological error. Resolve the intuitive error, and you heal the mental block. And underlying every intuitive error known to humanity is a spiritual disconnection. Resolve the spiritual disconnection, and you heal the intuitive error. Again, this philosophy here comes from the Universal Gnostic Church. This ties a little bit into the energetic system. For those of you that are familiar with the energy centers or chakras, some of you may have studied that. Interesting to me is that the fourth energy center of the energetic system is in our spiritual self is to love and relationships. So love and relationships relates once again to the heart, which is the fourth energy center, and then we are told that God is love. And so I think that speaks to a connection to the divine love or the divine source. Gandhi says that faith is the function of the heart. In Ecclesiastes 3:11, and this is taken from the Aramaic translation, he made everything beautiful in its time. Also, he has made the world dear to man's heart, so that no man can find out the works which the Lord has done from the beginning to the end. Mother Teresa, this is one of my favorite sayings, and of course I love Mother Teresa. She took the bhakti path, the path to serve others, and that's a path that I believe that I've been called to, and I was blessed to find my husband who's also been called to the same path, and we've been able to walk that path together. I found the paradox of life to be that if we love until it hurts, then there is no hurt, only more love. And I think that this particular philosophy came really true to life when Bill and I were living in Chico, California. We were overseeing a therapeutic foster care agency, and we worked with 70 foster children and 30 foster parents and the biological parents. And through that experience, we began to see the pain that came out of loving these foster children and their pain. And then we saw the phenomena when the pain disappeared and the love came shining through. And that went from foster parent to the children, from foster parent to the biological families as they accepted them in their home, to help piece the families back together, which is really the way foster care is supposed to work. Foster care is not supposed to be a permanent placement plan. If at all possible, children belong with their families. And it was really neat that we had foster parents that went the extra mile and really did want to help the biological families. So this particular saying really came alive for me then during that time that we were there. Proverbs 23:7 says, "For as a man thinketh in his heart, so he is." There's power in our thoughts. We create our surroundings by the thoughts that we think. Behind a pure heart is the agape love of God. God is love, and an example of the heart-mind connection is when our thoughts lead to our action to share with one another. A broken heart may lead us to thoughts of bitterness. Now, I'm sure many of you in here have had joyous moments in your life where you have grasped your heart in joy and you have felt that sensation when your heart is full of joy. And I know that everyone in here has also had devastating times in their lives where you've been hurt and you've grasped that same heart with a pain that feels like your heart is literally breaking. Again, I really believe that everything is ultimately connected to the heart. In fact, the Aramaic word for heart and I know I'm not going to pronounce this right because they say their H's a little bit different than this, but it's Labhan. And the word in Aramaic means a center from which life radiates, unselfish and loving kindness to all beings in a way of purifying the heart. And the purity of the heart will bring the vision of God. And again, this is the definition of the word heart from the Aramaic. So the journey is truly a journey to the heart of God. God tells us in the Bible that we are to love him with all of our soul, heart, and mind, and to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. In fact, the word heart is referred to 821 times in the Bible. This is the King James Version according to Strong's Exhaustive Concordance. Each of us has a story to tell. And in fact, this is where I want to begin to tie into what Bill will be talking about next week. Our story is a part of our spiritual journey. And our stories all interact with each other's stories at some part and some point in time. I'm a person who believes in synchronicity. I believe that there's no mistake. I believe that there's a time for everything, and when that time is right, and when we are ripe, as in the Aramaic translation, that we can begin to receive and understand deeper spiritual things as we are ready to move in that direction. But along the way, we hope to touch one another's lives, giving one another love, following that commandment to love God, but to love one another as we love ourselves, and understanding that we cannot love others unless we love God and we love ourselves. So we should be empathetic to other people's stories. We should be grateful for all that God has given us. We should be aware that life is our earth school, and I call these our earth suits. And one day, we won't have these on, and as I get older, I'm ready to kind of get rid of mine. We will one day see this life flash before us and understand that all that we did and how it touched others' lives. I don't know if anyone in here had a chance to see, is that Damian Brinkley? I think that's his name. Is it Damian Brinkley or Damian Brinkley? Anyway, he's a gentleman that was struck by lightning and was clinically dead for 25 minutes, I believe. And he shares the life after, his experience with that. And he's got some books out. I think he's going to be back at the Coptic conference that's coming up at the Holiday Inn in Johnson City in April. And if you have not been to the Coptic conference, I would love everyone to go to this. It's coming up, I think, April 14th and 15th. I can get more information about the conference to Sybil and get it out to everybody. But he did speak at that conference last year. And what he shared is that 70% of what we're being told about life after death is not right. 70%. So the percentage aren't that great. So, in fact, he said that when he got back from that experience, that he decided it was safe to go to the Catholic Church because he was told, that he should stay away from the Catholic Church by his family, who were strong Baptists, I believe. And so he said that once he knew that it didn't matter what church he went to, he said that he went and visited the Catholic Church. And he said he had a good time stretching out and putting his feet up on those little... Yeah, the kneel thing. Yeah, he didn't exactly kneel on those things. He actually used it as a footrest. But he's humorous and a lot of fun to hear speak. But one of the things that he said relative to my slide here, which I told you I try not to rabbit trail too much, is that he says that your life does flash before you, and it's like in a 360-degree thing. And he said, and what you see and feel is not only what you've done in your lifetime, but you actually feel what the people felt who you met in your lifetime, or who you helped, or who you hurt in your lifetime, that at this time you feel not only what you felt, but what the other people felt that you affected, how you affected their lives. And it's pretty powerful when you think about, going through an experience like that. And so who ends up judging you is you. And I think we can be really hard on ourselves. So I'm thinking it's probably a pretty tough judgment time. But it was very interesting to hear him speak, and you might want to check him out there, or maybe check out one of his books on life after death. He also has an organization where people sit with the veterans that have no one. These people will go and sit with the veterans as they're dying and help them to make the transition from this life to the next life. And I find that extremely wonderful, because nobody should die alone. And Mother Teresa did the same thing. She did not want anyone to die alone, and she brought them to a place where they would have somebody there that would help them to transition into the next life. And then we should all desire a pure heart. Some of the recommended readings, I'll leave them up there in case some of you want to write those down. I want to also share an experience I had with a 5-year-old girl, which happened on Friday, that I believe was a part of the Spirit telling me that I'm on the right track, which is always a relief if you have some affirmation that perhaps what you're saying could be true. And so this little girl is 5 years old, and I know that you won't be able to see this from, it's kind of hard to see, but let me just tell you what's on this little piece of paper. I asked the little girl to draw me a picture, and she drew me a picture of her family, okay? And this one here with the big round belly was her fat cousin. So all the other stick figures had kind of small bodies. She also placed a heart in the center of every one of these stick figures, which I've never had a child do before. There's a heart in every one of the center of all of these stick figures. She did not, however, place a heart in her picture, which is right here, until after we had a little talk. I said to her, "You've put hearts in everyone. Where's your heart?" And she says, "I don't have a heart." And I said, "Well, let's see about that. Let's see if you do." I said, "Did you know you can feel your heartbeat from your arm?" She's like, "No." And I said, "Let's see." So I found her pulse. When I found it, I took her little fingers and I said, "Now you put your finger right here and you concentrate and you will be able to feel your heart beating from here." Well, she put her little fingers there and she looked at me, and I could tell she was really concentrating, and she goes, "Oh yes, there it is. I can hear my heart." That is profound. At least to me it is, and I see in the eyes of some of you out there that it would be profound for you. This is out of the mouth of a 5-year-old child. So she can hear her heartbeat now. So she drew the picture of the heart inside of her. And I was just very thankful that I had the opportunity to be a part of that with her. I'd actually gone there to interview her on a sexual abuse investigation. So a lot of what I have to do in my work is very, very hard. And in order to keep from traumatizing the children that we have to interview, I try to find a gentle path, a way to work with them so that when I walk away, that they're not remembering the interview, but that they're remembering that I love them, each and every one of them. So, and I really believe they pick up on that, because children are really sensitive to that, and they can tell the difference from someone who's just doing their job and wants to ask a bunch of questions that could destroy them, frankly, or someone who is careful in their questioning and making sure that they are not any further traumatized after being sexually abused or abused. So I've given out some open heart prayers, and this is just an example, and you don't have to follow this. Yeah. This is a lengthy prayer, as you can see, and we're not going to take time to do it today, but if you're interested in reading through this on your own time, you can. What I would like to do is a condensed version of this prayer with everyone, for those of you that would be willing to do this. Some of the preparations, the prayer preparations listed at the top to relax your body, to smile to your heart, and to touch your heart, and then pray with feeling, are some of the things that will kind of help you enter into the space of the heart prayer. So for those of you that would like to participate, I'm just going to ask you to just get comfortable where you're sitting. Perhaps close your eyes if you're comfortable closing your eyes, and place your hand or your fingers or one or two fingers on your heart to kind of center there. Take a few deep breaths so you could feel your chest rising and falling as you have your hand on your chest. And then for each of you sitting here today, just go to a place and a time in your life where you felt loved by someone. Someone or something. It might have been your pet that gave you love, that you felt loved by. But just a place in your mind where you could connect with your heart, that time where you felt really loved. And in that time, you felt peace and security. And as you stay in that place, you should be able to begin to even feel your heartbeat at this time. And you'll feel a rhythm for your body as you breathe in and out, and the rhythm with your heartbeat. And you can take it a step further and begin to visualize in your mind maybe where that place is or who that person is, or even begin the heart memory process where you might even be able to smell things with your senses, like pancakes or mom's home cooking, or a candle that smells good, or a person's perfume that they had on when you were with them and they shared this love with you. All of your senses will begin to work together when you tap into heart memory. And we're just going to thank the Divine Source for giving us this time to tap into this experience of love. And knowing that when there is an experience of love, that we are in the presence of the divine, we're in the presence of God. And that He does love us, He, she. The Spirit does love us. And we can worship the Spirit in spirit and in truth as we connect to our heart. And we're smiling to our heart, and our heart smiles back to our mind. And there's a phenomena that happens when we smile. It releases a lot of things, a lot of tension, a lot of negativity. So we are just grateful for those times and experiences, and hope to have many more in our lives. So we ask the Divine Source to lead us and guide us in our heart path, that it is our unique path. That the path is narrow. Yes, it is. And the path is narrow because there's room for only one person, and that's your path. So walk down your path, connecting to the heart of the divine, knowing that you're loved and that you're always, always connected and in the presence of the divine. Breathe a couple more deep breaths, and then just slowly open your eyes. And that is the heart prayer, and connecting with the divine through the heart. And again, the open heart prayer can be used in your private prayer time and meditation time. And I just thank you for the opportunity to come in and speak. And that's the conclusion. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, sir.
I have two questions. One, which is to ask, what is the Catholic Foundation?
That is the foundation that you can find that on the internet. It's a foundation that's tied in with yoga and that some of the Eastern meditations, things like that. And that's where I picked up. I wanted to give them credit for that open heart prayer. I did not write that prayer, okay? But like I said, it's a kind of a lengthy prayer. But if you can just kind of read through it and get the basic summary of what it's saying, there's basically 3 or 4 things that you're covering in the heart prayer. You're opening your heart to the divine, and in that process you're asking you're grateful. You're telling the divine source that I'm grateful for everything that you've given me this day. So you're showing gratefulness. You're asking the divine for forgiveness for anything that you might have done, either consciously or unconsciously, to hurt anybody. And then you are asking for guidance in your daily life to follow the heart path and the path that the divine has chosen for you. And then it's just from there you can add anything else that you want to in your prayer and meditation time.
I have a question. Your constant reference to our man.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Because, well, that's just something I recently really got interested in, because the Aramaic language was, like I said, spoken by Jesus. And in my research as a Christian counselor, I researched a lot of the Bible, and there's a lot of Christian counselors out there that just, in fact, use the Bible alone as their reference for their Christian counseling. I do not limit myself just to the Bible, although I believe that there is a lot of truth in the Bible. I also found out, of course, later on that they left some books out of the Bible. So I incorporated the books that are being found, such as the Book of Thomas and some of the other books, into my research. But Aramaic, I think it goes into more the Eastern traditions and culture. And when you read the Bible from the Aramaic translation, it really gives you a whole new light or deeper light of the Bible itself.
Excuse me, that indicates that you feel perhaps that the conventional translations that we see
Yes.
Are inaccurate.
Mhm. Right. I guess everybody saw the profound difference between Matthew 5:8 and the Matthew 5:8 in the Aramaic. If you look at the Aramaic Bible itself, which there's a version of that was translated by Dr. Lamass. Is that right? We have that version of the Bible. A lot of it really is similar to the King James Version. I mean, you'll find that it's not a major difference or anything, but in some of these verses, someone's back there that has the Aramaic Bible. Okay. Yes, it goes a little bit deeper and clarifies it, because my thing is that if we're looking at the red lettering in the Bible, okay, this is what they say that Jesus said, and we're taking it from the Greek translation, to the English, what happened to the language that he actually spoke, and why would you not want to translate it from the language that he actually spoke and put it in context? Well, for example, the Lord's Supper, the pictures of the Lord's Supper with the big table, and they all have those big chairs sitting behind the table, that is not a realistic picture, because they didn't have big chairs behind a table like that. In fact, they would be sitting on the floor, in fact, on pillows during that time, and the table would be down about like this, if they even had a table at that time. And just, I don't know, it just kind of bothered me. I just thought, well, why do we believe these pictures when they're not accurate to the history and to the traditions of the Eastern world? The Eastern world was where he was, and we're here in the West, and we're trying to push our Western traditions onto something that it just didn't match up to me. So I started studying more about the Aramaic, and that's how I got down that track. But I truly do love the Aramaic translation.
But you think that the translation of the Aramaic of your opinion is any more reliable than the Vulgate or any of the other translations?
Let me speak, Mike. When you get into linguistics, if you'll go back, there were sounds and words all developed through time. So it's just a porthole. This is the area we all get in debate. I'll give you, for instance, California Institute of Interpretive Studies. It's kind of a guru think tank. If you go to Berkeley, it's all the identities, all the denominational areas. But then there in San Francisco, you go to all the, and you see a lot of international students and people getting integrated. These were integrated. And it all gets back to linguistics and the language itself. And all how we may interpret English, we have different interpretations. God's guarantee of being first in the Bible to a certain degree. So that's a good point. One word can change the whole meaning. And meaning's the key word. You know, it's like a challenge for it to get too big. And that's what I've always claimed to be too much mental consider the things too big. So
One recent example was the PBS thing on the Da Vinci Code that Mary Magdalene was poor, woman, virgin. There were like 10
various levels of perceptions. When you go back to the days where the Roman Catholic Church, considered the true church, before it started making transliteration into the. And I know it obviously no expert in this area, but just given my journey as a practitioner and listening to different belief systems for the last 25 years, it's really interesting to see how we get to a protocol of just one and kind of define it, and we use words like we all do. And it's interesting. Keeping an open mind, I don't necessarily know what happens. To get that in mind.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I know it's getting late. I just want to make this comment and kind of get away from the Bible thing specifically, but I just really appreciate a lot of the things he said, in fact, everything that he said. And what I was reminded of, what went through my mind several times while you were speaking, was this whole thing about, most of us have heard it, there's all this hype about secrets.
Yeah.
And yet, and a lot of people are turned off because of all the hype that it sounds so unrealistic in some way. And yet, when you had that slide up there, we talked about creating our surroundings bubble. That's basically the message of the secret.
Right.
It's not a secret at all.
Right.
Well, what I like about what you said is it kind of encompassed this thing, this message about law of attraction and all, but also, not only in a general way, but in a more all-encompassing way. I feel encompassed a lot more, I think, than what is said in the secret. There's a lot more we can do.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that feedback.
One more. I just wanted to say that I think we're really lucky to have you. It was really amazing.
Oh, thanks.